Search for Malaysian Airlines Flight MH370 resumes today, more than a decade after its disappearance. American robotics company Ocean Infinity will lead the hunt off the West Australian coast.
A retired aerospace engineer says he has solved one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. He claims he knows the exact location of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, resting deep beneath the Indian Ocean. Not an estimate. Not a wide search zone. Exact coordinates backed by years of analysis, multiple data sources, and independent verification.
Richard has spent the last 9 months using new tracking technology, mapping the plane's final movements, and he believes he's found its final location, 1,900 kilometres west of Perth, lying at a depth of 4,000 metres.
And yet, no government has agreed to search where he says the plane is. To understand why this matters, we have to go back to the beginning. On March 8, 2014, MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur, heading toward Beijing. On board were 239 passengers and crew. It was supposed to be a routine overnight flight. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. Then, less than an hour after takeoff, something changed. The pilot signed off with the now famous words, "Good night, Malaysian 370." Shortly after, the aircraft's transponder was switched off. The plane disappeared from civilian radar, but it didn't vanish immediately. Military radar later showed the aircraft turning around. It flew back across Malaysia, then out over the Andaman Sea. After that, it headed south into one of the most remote regions on Earth, the southern Indian Ocean. Then, it was gone. What followed was the largest and most expensive search effort in aviation history. Dozens of countries were involved. Ships, aircraft, satellites, and underwater vehicles scanned a massive area of ocean floor. Over 120,000 square kilometers were searched. Still, nothing. No wreckage, no black boxes, no clear answers. In 2017, the official search was suspended. Governments concluded the aircraft was lost somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, but they couldn't pinpoint where.
MH370 lost contact with Subang Air Traffic Control this morning.
For the families of the victims, it meant one thing: no closure. For most people, the story ended there, but not for Richard Godfrey. Godfrey is a retired aerospace engineer with more than 4 decades of experience. He worked on advanced aviation systems, including autopilots and navigation technologies. He understood how aircraft behave, how systems fail, and more importantly, how data can reveal hidden patterns. He believed something had been overlooked. While official investigators relied heavily on satellite handshake data, which only provided broad arcs of possible locations, Godfrey focused on something different: a global radio signal network known as WSPR, short for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. WSPR is used by amateur radio operators around the world. It continuously transmits low-power signals that travel long distances by bouncing off the ionosphere. These signals are extremely sensitive. Even small disturbances can affect them. Godfrey's idea was unconventional. When an aircraft moves through these radio paths, it creates tiny disruptions in the signals. Individually, these disruptions look like noise. But when you collect thousands of them from different locations and analyze them correctly, a pattern can emerge. At first, many experts dismissed this approach. The signals were too weak, the atmosphere too unpredictable. It seemed impossible to extract meaningful tracking data from such noise. But Godfrey didn't stop. He spent years developing algorithms capable of filtering out atmospheric interference and identifying the specific signature of an aircraft. He tested his models using known commercial flights. Over time, the system began to work consistently. It could track aircraft paths, using WSPR data with surprising accuracy. Only after validating his method did he apply it to MH370.
We have quite a lot of data from the Inmarsat satellite. We have oceanography, drift analysis. We have the performance data from Boeing. And now with this new technology, we have the WhisperNet data, and all four align at a particular point in the southern Indian Ocean.
What he found was remarkable. Starting at the exact time the aircraft disappeared from radar, his analysis showed a series of consistent signal disturbances moving south. Not random, not scattered. A clear path matching the speed and altitude of a commercial airliner. This pattern continued for hours. The data suggested that MH370 did not crash immediately. Instead, it kept flying for roughly 6 more hours, heading deeper into the Indian Ocean. The path was smooth and controlled, not erratic. Then, at a specific moment, the signal disturbances stopped completely. Suddenly, precisely, Godfrey pinpointed that location to around 33 degrees south latitude and 95 degrees east longitude, a remote section of ocean about 4,000 meters deep, far from shipping routes, far from land, and importantly, just outside the area where search teams had been looking. That alone was significant. Over the years, pieces of debris from MH370 had washed ashore on islands and coastlines across the Indian Ocean. Parts of the wing were found on Reunion Island. Other fragments appeared in Mozambique, Madagascar, and Tanzania. Each piece was analyzed and confirmed to be from the missing aircraft. Godfrey used ocean drift modeling to trace these fragments backward. By studying currents, wind patterns, and time, he calculated where the debris likely entered the water. The results matched his proposed crash site. Different methods, same conclusion. Satellite data, WSPR tracking, debris drift analysis, all pointing to a single location. But the most unsettling part wasn't where the plane ended. It was how it got there. The reconstructed flight path showed clear signs of deliberate control. The aircraft didn't simply drift after a failure. It followed a planned route. It avoided radar coverage. It maintained steady speed and altitude. At one point, the data even suggested a holding pattern over the ocean, a loop lasting several minutes. That raises serious questions. Why would a plane that was supposedly lost or incapacitated circle in one place? A holding pattern is intentional. It requires active control. It suggests decision-making. This was not consistent with the ghost flight theory, where a plane continues on autopilot until fuel runs out. Instead, it pointed to something else. Someone was flying that aircraft, and they were doing it with precision. In 2021, Godfrey released his full findings. He shared the coordinates, the data, and the methodology. He invited experts to review his work, challenge it, or verify it. Some did, and many found his approach credible. Then, in 2023, a private company called Ocean Infinity offered to search the location. They had the technology, the experience, and the resources. The cost was relatively modest compared to previous efforts. They only needed approval. That approval never came. Authorities declined the proposal, stating there wasn't enough new evidence to justify another search. For the families, it was another devastating blow. After years of waiting, there was finally a specific location to investigate. A chance, however small, to find answers. And yet, no action was taken. This is where the situation becomes difficult to ignore. If the coordinates are wrong, a targeted search could prove that quickly. If they are right, the mystery would finally be solved. So why not look? One possibility is simple caution. Governments don't want to commit resources without absolute certainty. But there's another possibility. If MH370 is found, the black boxes may still be recoverable. Even after years underwater, they can contain critical data. Flight inputs, system status, cockpit activity. That information would reveal exactly what happened. Who was in control? What decisions were made? Whether there were communications that were never disclosed. It would answer questions that have remained open for over a decade, and it might also raise new ones. Questions about what authorities knew, when they knew it, and whether anything was missed or withheld. For families like those of the 239 people on board, this isn't about theories or speculation. It's about closure. They have spent years waiting, hoping for answers that never came. Now there is at least a possibility, a location, a method, a chance to finally understand. But until someone is willing to search that specific point in the ocean, the truth remains out of reach. Somewhere deep beneath the Indian Ocean, in total darkness, the wreckage of MH370 may still be there, silent, undisturbed, holding the answers to everything and waiting to be found.